Hey Ken, how you doing?
Good, Doug. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. I hope you're having a great day.
Well, busy one. I was on a conference call and I missed you by about 1 minute. Anyway, fire away.
Yeah, I appreciate you returning the call. So yeah, I start these interviews with a simple question, which is, where are you originally from?
I was born in Oakland, California.
Ah, pretty cool. Where is that located?
Oakland?
Yeah.
Where do you live?
Oh, I live in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oakland's across the bay from San Francisco.
Ah, okay. So you're in the San
Oakland.
Francisco area.
Well, yeah, but Oakland's a well-known, famous town.
Oh.
The weddings, the Oakland Raiders, and the famous Oakland Speedway all were.
Oh, got it. Okay. I guess it's one of those things where I'm like, where have I been, I guess?
Okay.
Yeah. But that sounds like a really cool place. I'll have to check it out one of these days.
Yeah, it's a pretty big community. It's, I don't know, 700,000 people or something like that.
Alrighty. So, what was your first insight into the sport of racing?
Well, when I was a kid, my family lived in Walnut Creek, California, which is San Francisco Bay Area. And we had a small farm. We didn't farm it, but that's what it was. And up the street, about half a mile, was a garage and a gas station and a beer hall, saloon. And we became friendly with the owners, and they had midgets, and then later they had stock cars. Now this is in the 1940s and early 1950s.
Oh.
We moved there in 1946, right after the war was over. And I started, I played baseball, and I loved baseball, but I realized at a very young age I wasn't good enough to ever play professional Major League ball. And yet, I still like baseball. But anyway, they had race cars, and I became somewhat fascinated with them. And by 1951, I was totally hooked. I was 12 years old.
That's really cool. So you were involved at a very young age.
This is my 70th season in professional motorsports.
That is incredible. Good on you, man. So,
Quite a career.
yeah, it sounds like a big one. So I have a question that I'm kind of asking on behalf of a follower that submitted one. The person's question is, as a guy who got involved at a young age, what advice would you give a young driver or person on getting into the racing industry?
Well, it's changed so dramatically since I was a boy. It takes money, and it certainly takes ability. And some people think they have ability and they don't, and others do, and sometimes way more than they realize they do. Complete dedication, complete commitment. I've been responsible for some very famous race car drivers making a career out of this that I coached and mentored when they were very young. And every one of them, that's what I've emphasized. If they had the ability, and I could see the ability in them, then my words to them were total commitment.
All right. What drivers have you coached and mentored if they're famous?
Oh my gosh. Helped, coached, mentored. Oh wow, where do I start? Jesus Christ. Tom Gloy, former Trans Am champion, Indianapolis 500 veteran, IROC competitor. Think of off some names. Haley Deegan, Derek Kraus, Herschel McGriff Jr., oh gosh. You know, I just never thought much about it. It was just part of what I did. But there's probably been, I've probably mentored or helped or coached 50 drivers that have been successful in my administrative end of my career.
That's pretty cool, man. I think some of those names I've actually heard of, like the Trans Am driver you mentioned. I think I know that name. I think I've heard it before.
Well, Tom drove for Roger Penske. He drove for Jack Roush. He drove for the Ford factory. He was never an AJ Foyt or a Dale Earnhardt, but he was very, very good. And I was totally responsible for his success, other than his ability. He had a lot of ability, but had it not have been for a lunch that I had with him 50 years ago, he would have never left what he was doing and gone full-time racing.
That's really incredible. Who is your biggest racing hero growing up when you were getting involved?
Well, several of them. I never dreamed I'd ever be very, very close family, personal friends with Herschel McGriff. But I met Herschel in 1952, and I was 13 years old by then. He was 25 or 26, and, you know, he was just a young guy driving race cars extremely well. And then, you know, he won the Pan American Road Race in 1950. And he went back east in 1954 and he ran Cup. He only ran half the season, but he finished sixth in points and won 4 Cup races. And then he quit for 11 years and made a fortune in the timber business. And then after 11 years, he came back and started driving again, and we became buddies, and we're like brothers. He's 93 years old. He's still alive.
Oh, that is really incredible.
and others, well, when I was a kid, I thought Tony Bettenhausen, and little did I ever know that I'd end up being really close friends with one of his children. And he was a great race car driver. He got killed at Indianapolis in 1961. He won the first Indianapolis car race that my father ever took me to. That was October 21st, 1951. It was at San Jose. Years later, I owned that racetrack for 25 years.
That's really cool. What was owning that track like?
Well, to be very candid with you, very profitable. It took me from 2nd Avenue over to Broadway financially. And it was, for 5 years in a row, it was the #1 Saturday night weekly short track in the United States.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was a huge success. I also promoted 44 World of Outlaw events, and in my career, I did 47 American Motorcycle Association National Championship races on the San Jose Mile. It was a mile oval, and it had a third of a mile and a half a mile inside of it. It seated about 20,000 people.
That's a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
For 5 years, we had huge crowds. There was a dozen guys around San Jose, California that didn't do anything but race there on Saturday night. They could make that much money racing.
Oh, man. So it was one of the most profitable places to win and race at?
Oh, yeah. If you won the main event on Saturday night in a modified, On a bad night, you get $1,000, and a good night, you get 10,000.
That back then was a lot of money, because I compared to NASCAR back then, that was a lot of prize money. It sounds like.
It was, and incidentally, those were NASCAR weekly sanctioned races. And of course, they did motorcycles and World of Outlaws also. Yeah, it was. Everybody knew where San Jose was.
That's pretty cool. So, when did you get involved in NASCAR?
Well, in 1954. I was 15 years old, and I was tall. I was almost 6 foot at a very young age. I was skinny, and I falsified an identification card and sent it with my money to Daytona for a Grand National or Woodson company. You know it today, mechanic's license. And lo and behold, if I didn't get it back in the mail in a few weeks. I didn't even have a California driver's license yet. But I figured out how old I'd have to be eligible, and then I added 2 years to it. So when I was 16, I made myself be 23.
I've read that too. I've read a few drivers that lied about their age so they could get a part in it.
Some of my old friends did the same thing. Cale Yarborough, Richard Petty, Davey Allison, they all falsified their ID. A lot of guys did.
Yeah, did you read about Jose Lagarza doing that and then winning Rookie of the Year at Indy?
Yeah, I was aware of that. Yeah.